Welcome everybody back to Burn Popcorn for another day in our 31 days of Popcornween. Today, I had the privilege of telling you about a 2022 movie called Smile. Written and directed by Parker Finn, stars Sosie Bacon, Jesse T. Usher, Kyle Gallner, a therapist, after witnessing a bizarre and traumatic suicide.
I have a patient emergency in Eval 2. I need staff here now.
Believes she's being targeted by an uncanny entity, infiltrates her very life, taking the faces of people she knows, and marking itself with an evil grin.
Holly.
The journey takes her far away from friends and loved ones, isolating her as she spirals out of control and deeper down a well of insanity towards an unseen creature that only wants her suffering. This is a movie that didn't get a whole lot of buzz when it came out 2 years ago. Hell, I didn't even hear about it. It's got a kind of inconspicuous title to it, Smile. Don't really know what it's about. You don't really think it's a horror movie at first. The way I stumbled upon this movie was, well, I'm a big fan of practical effects, and I look at a lot of stuff like that on Twitter, and it just got fed into my algorithm one day. One of the visual effects shots of the creature at the end of the movie shoving its face into a character's mouth. And I just thought, I gotta see what the hell this thing is. So I looked it up, and I checked it out, and I gotta say, I wasn't disappointed. This is definitely a horror movie that's in the vibe of the kind of new age style horror where it's all about the atmosphere and the terror and pushing the bounds of one's sanity to the far limits. Now, when I say a new era of horror, it's not the flashy, like, slasher shit of the aughts and the teens and all the remakes and everything that we've been having going on for years and years. This is a low-budget movie that was the project of pretty much a first-time director who got this movie made because he made a short film that's actually a prequel to this movie that got a bunch of buzz at a film festival, and Paramount Films said, hey dude, we want you to come here and make some stuff for us. And this is what he's come up with. Now, the premise on the surface, a demon that latches onto a person and follows them until they meet their unfortunate demise, isn't really a new premise. Like, none of the stuff that actually Parker Finn actually does in this movie could be considered new, but it's so far from how a lot of movies these days are treated that it's completely outside the realm of the normal horror fare. Like, this isn't a popcorn horror movie like the Final Destination movies or, you know, the Freddy or Jason movies. This is a movie that just gets in under your skin and makes you feel uneasy from start to finish. This movie's now got a lot of people that are going to be familiar to you, and some that you're probably not going to realize you know who they are. For example, the lead actress Sosie Bacon. Does the name sound familiar? It's because she's Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon's daughter. If you look at her long enough, you can see it. See? Look at her. You see both of their faces right there. That's fucking weird. Another person you're gonna recognize, though, is Jesse T. Usher, A-Train from The Boys. I did not know this guy by name. Not a huge fan of The Boys, but I've watched it, so I recognized him when I saw him, and my response was just, what the fuck are you doing here? 2000s horror icon Kyle Gallner is also in this movie. You might recognize him from The Haunting in Connecticut, or that Nightmare on Elm Street remake that was awful and we try not to talk about too often, especially around Semper, because he will hurt us. He was also, now I didn't know this until literally just looking him up right now, he was also a young Barry Allen in Smallville. went by Bart Allen. What? What? I didn't think that guy'd ever work again. And if you're a big fan of the Scream requels or Legacy sequel, whatever the fuck you want to call those new things, if you're a big fan of those, it also weirdly enough got Cal Penn in it. I thought he was still working for Obama. I mean, I know Obama's not president anymore. Hasn't been for a very long time. Unless you want to count Biden's presidency too. It's your choice. I forgot that guy was acting. And he just shows up, and at one point he rips his own fucking face off. This movie's got a great cast, great atmosphere, great cinematography. It's got amazing practical effects, a little bit of digital work to hide the seams. But it's not very effects heavy. It's very reliant on these actors and their performances, and believing that Sosie Bacon is really losing her marbles during all of this. And as you go along with her on the journey, you kind of understand.
Get out of here! Get out of here! Get away from me!
The plot is pretty simple. After she witnesses the patient commit suicide, she begins having increasingly more tense and stressful things happen to her. People staring at her, just smiling. Actually, after they released the movie, one of the marketing things they did, they had some of their actors go to just ball games and like random things like that, and just sit directly in front of where a camera would be pointed and just smile, just without moving. I don't know how much you paid those guys to do that, but it's creepy. You either gave them a pretty good little check for that, or they believed in this movie. But after she begins witnessing stranger things happening, her boyfriend, played by Jesse T. Usher, doesn't believe anything she says. Now, she at first discounts all of it as stress. She thinks that the trauma of what had happened has caused her to lose a bit of a grip on reality. But as things continue, she realizes that may not be the case. And her ex-boyfriend, Kyle Gallner, who is a cop, helps her track down her patient, and she finds that there is a pattern that goes back to one man who did not die. She goes and visits him and finds out he staved off the curse with let's call it a lethal solution. So she's given the choice. Does she take this man's way out? Or does she allow the demon to consume her? And it all culminates in her childhood home, bringing back all her trauma from her mother, being a drug addict and being schizophrenic. And it all wraps itself up in a meaty, multi-chinned bow that I won't spoil for you, because this movie's fresh enough that I feel like we're still in spoiler territory. But it's definitely a movie you should check out. Now, one of the things that helps set this movie apart is its very, very eerie score. And I didn't know until doing some digging. And one of the reasons why it's so eerie is because it's a very unorthodox musical instrument. Now, I have never heard this instrument before this movie, but it's called a daxophone. Yeah. You're probably looking at me going, that's not a thing. I said the same thing. But its effect is pretty clear. It creates a very eerie, ominous, almost haunted tone from a bow, and it looks like a piece of a fretboard to a guitar and maybe a wooden spoon your grandma used to use in the kitchen. It doesn't matter. What matters is it's very effective. This score helps completely set you in that uneasy frame of mind. the main character is going through while she's slowly losing herself to this smile curse. Now, there is a second one coming out soon. That's kind of reason why I put it on the 13th, you know? It's coming out in like a couple of days. And one of the things the director said was that each installment is not going to be like the last. Now, I hope he keeps to that promise. We haven't seen it yet. It isn't out yet. But if he does, this could end up being one of the most memorable, creepy, and underrated horror franchises ever. So far, it's not a franchise yet. 2 movies a franchise does not make. But I am definitely looking forward to seeing what comes out of this movie in the future. Because if this movie is any indication, we're in for some creepy shit. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And if you haven't checked out all the previous videos we put out this month, go check them out. There's a lot of good stuff deep in there. Mainly mine, Ken's and Semper's, not so much. Mine are definitely the best. Watch all mine with me in the thumbnail. Definitely me, only me. Don't worry about Ken or Semper's.